Welcome to all of you here and all of you out there. We're going to have a hybrid service. We started it last week, and we're very pleased that folks are coming in person, but also very pleased that many of you are tuning in. If you're going to be like candles with us, you'd like to set up your candles now on page 1, a little bit underneath me. Okay. In Sarah's tent, a special miracle proclaimed that the divine presence dwelled therein. The lamp she lit every Friday evening in honor of the day of rest miraculously kept burning all week until the next Friday Eve. When Sarah died, the miracle of our Shabbat lamp ceased. But on the day of Sarah's passing, Rebecca was born. And when Rebecca was brought to Sarah's tent as the destined wife of Sarah's son Isaac, the miracle of the lamp returned. Once again, the light of Shabbat filled the tent of the matriarch of Israel and radiated its holiness to the entire week. Holy One of blessing, your presence fills creation. Your presence fills creation. Oh, your presence fills creation. Oh, Holy One of blessing, your presence fills creation. Your presence fills creation. Oh, your presence fills creation. I da 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 da. Taking the light 3 times as the wind is trying to blow it out, but we will try to prevent that. Oh, Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, Eloheinu melech haolam, Melech haolam, Asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat. Shabbat shalom, good Shabbos.
Shabbat shalom.
On page 2, we have this beautiful poem that was added to Kabbalat Shabbat, Yedid Nefesh, the elongation of the 4-letter name of God. It's on page 2. Okay. All of this crosswind is causing a bit of a consternation to the candles, but the candles will persevere. Page 2. I did, I How splendid is your light, which worlds do reflect. My soul is one from craving for your love's delight. Please, good God, do heal her and show her your face, so my soul can see you and bathe in your grace. There she will find strength and healing in this sight. Her joy will be complete and eternal her delight. Vatiye Muna Rachamecha V'chusana Al Benahu Vecha Ki Ze Kama Nichsafti Lirot Behera בתפארת עוזך, אלך חמדה ליבי, וחוסה נא, ואל תתעלם. Oh, help my lover spread your canopy of peace, enfold all human beings, give all pain surcease. Your presence on this earth plain do make known to us, and we shall respond with song and with dance. Rush, my love, be quick, the time for love is now. Let your gentle favor grace us as of old. As we go through the Psalms of Kabbalat Shabbat, beginning on page 3, you notice that there's a diagram on each page, and that diagram is a diagram of the tree of life, according to our mystical tradition. And we are at the point of chesed, of loving kindness, on the first day, which is Sunday. And chesed is the overflowing of loving kindness, and it is attached to the character of Avraham. And Avram, of course, is the main character in our parsha this week, as he is told to go to a land that he will be shown. So your kavanah for this psalm should be basically, what portals do you have to reach a level of chesed? What do you have within you that is chesedic, as we would say, that has that compassion, empathy, etc., that flows? It's not forced. You can't force chesed, really. You could send a check to someone. It's very nice, but it's very important, by the way. I'm not putting that down. But the point is, there's something that's an inner flow, because ultimately the chesed is not only to be given outwards, but to give that chesed to yourself as well. That's not easy for a lot of people. It's easier to give than it is to receive and to be inside. So if you join me on page 3, we put up our Siddur. Am I right, Lee? Yes, they have it up, and at home it's on page 3. Lechu niranena laya nariya letzuyishenu lechad marfana betoda nazmirot nariya lo ki גדול על כל אלוהים, אשר מידו מחקרי הארץ, ותועפות הרים לו. היי רי 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 שנה קוד בדור, ויאמרם טועה לבבהם, והם לא ידעו דרכי, אשר נשבעתי באפי, אם יבואו אל מנוחתי. On page 5, you'll notice we're at Gevurah. Gevurah is the balance to chesed. You can be abusive by giving too much as well. Particularly if you're ever raising children, you could make a lot of damage by being overly chesedic. But you need a little gevurah too, a little bit of boundary, a little bit of sternness in order to create that balance. Shir Adonai, Psalm 96 on page 5.
Shir Adonai, Shir Chadash, Shir Adonai, Kol Haaretz, Shir Adonai, Bachu Shemo, Basu Meyom Leyom Yeshuato, Safu Vagoyim Kevodo, Bechol Ha'arim Niflotai, Ki Gadol Adonai, U'me'olam me'od, Norahu, Al Kol Elohim, Ki Kol Elohei Ha'amim Elelim Ba'adonai Shamayim Ha'aretz, Hod ve'adar lefanav, Hod ve'tiferet be'mikdasho, Hamu l'Adonai mishpechot ha'amim, Hamu l'Adonai kavod va'od, Hamu l'Adonai kevod shemo, Zeu mincha, Uvol lechatzrotai, Shtachkavu l'Adonai ve'adja kodesh, Chilu mipanai kol haaretz, Imru vagoyim Adonai malach, Avtikon tever ba'altimot, Yadinamim be'meisharim, Yishmechu hashmayim v'tagel haaretz, Yiramaya u'melom, Yalos Adai, Ve'kol ha'shevo, אז ירננו כל עציה לפני אדוני, כי בא לשבור הארץ, לשבור דבר בצדק, ועמים באמונתו,
A psalm for Tuesday. If you look at page 6 at the chart, we're now entering what is called Tiferet. And Tiferet is balance. Balance between Chesed and Gevurah. Together they create splendor. And if you notice this, those of you who do chakras, do other Kundalini yoga and all that, the center, if you will, up and down all the way is the spine. All right? And the idea of a spiritual path is to have balance. Not to be too much on one side or too much on the other. We call that equanimity, the capacity to basically absorb what you encounter in the world. Praise without getting your head swollen. disappointment without becoming despairing. That's a very hard thing to do, to balance those two. But Tiferet, beauty, splendor, arrives when we have the capacity to have everything in a balanced way. So on page 6, Or Zarua Tzaddik, Psalm 97.
Oh, Zarua Tzaddik, Yishrei lev, Simcha. Oh, Zarua Tzaddik, Yishrei lev, Simcha. Ay, 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 Tzadikim b'Adonai, Simchu tzadikim b'Adonai, Simchu tzadikim b'Adonai, ve'odu zecher kodsho. Simchu tzadikim b'Adonai, Simchu tzadikim b'Adonai, Simchu tzadikim b'Adonai, ve'odu zecher kodsho. Zarua l'tzadik, u'yishrei lev, simcha. Ay, 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 Tzadikim b'Adonai, Simchu tzadikim b'Adonai, Simchu tzadikim b'Adonai, ve'odu lezech kodsho. Simchu tzadiko b'Adonai, Simchu tzadiko b'Adonai, Simchu tzadiko b'Adonai, ve'odu lezech kodsho. Ay, 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 ay.
We move to Psalm 98 on page 8. You notice we are now in the Sphira of Netzach. And Netzach has many different kinds of meanings. Matter of fact, all of our Jewish mystical tradition, things never stay the same in their meaning. They're clusters of meanings, and they'll be used in different ways. That's why it's very complicated stuff to study, because nothing stands still. It's a dynamic text. May mean one thing here, another thing there, so you got to be on your toes. And here we're in Netzach, which means endurance. Endurance is that capacity, as you know, to stick with it. Not always easy. Matter of fact, it is perhaps the lack of endurance that causes many people to fall by the wayside. And we have to bolster our own endurance and hopefully help the endurance of those around us so they don't fall off the path. So with that in mind, on Wednesday, our Wednesday Psalm is on page 98, page 8.
Zamru l'Adonai bechinor, bechinor v'kol zimra. Zamru l'Adonai bechinor, bechinor v'kol zimra. Zamru l'Adonai bechinor, bechinor v'kol zimra.
Sing praises to Yah with the aid of the harp, the kinor, with the harp and the melodious voice, with trumpets and sound of the horn. Shout before the sovereign Yah. Let the sea roar and all that it contains, the world and that they dwell in it. Let the rivers clap their hands, let all the mountains sing for joy before Yah. For Yah comes to judge the earth, and God will judge the world with righteousness and the peoples with equity. לפני אדוני כי בא לשפוט הארץ, ישפוט תבל בצדק, וימים במי שברים. Psalm 99. If you look at our chart, we're now in Hod. Hod. The root of many words could be praise, Hodu, Ladonai, Kitov. It could be also perhaps gratitude, the source of the word Todah, right? Lehodot, to be thankful for. Whatever it is basically also an ongoing, if you will, kind of journey we must take. And also gives us a great deal of opposition, if you will, to giving up, Page 9, Psalm 99.
Where the last three lines, the last three bolder lines. Romemu, Romemu, Romemu.
Psalm 29 on page 10. If you notice, we're now at Yesod. Again, a balance between Netzach and Hod. And Yesod is where it all comes together, becomes a funnel, all that energy, if you will, all those different aspects of our personalities, all those different aspects of ourselves come together, and they will eventually be something that nurtures Shekhinah, which we'll get to in a little while. It becomes a foundation. It's a good term, a foundation. Take all the disparate parts, and then you get something firm on which you can stand. So the last lines are, you sat unmoving in the flood time. Your sitting is sovereign and constant, and you reflect this strength in our inmost hearts, so that we may be blessed with peace. Norman Fisher has been a guest of ours for a number of years. He's a marvelous bridge between Zen Buddhism and our Jewish life. And his translations of the Psalms are quite wonderful. Adonai lebabul yashav, vayeshev ya melech liolam. Adonai oz li'amo yiten, Adonai yivarech et amo b'shalom. And now Lechadodi on page 12. And that's what's going to help bring down that energy. Lechadodi. So when we meet the Queen, we meet Malchut, we meet Shekhinah, that indwelling presence with us. We do it with a sense of love, and we do it with a sense of joy. Alai, lai, 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 alai, lai, li, lai, lai, alai, lai, li, lai, dum, da, dee, dai, dai, alai, dai, 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 alai, dai, dee, dai, dai, ai, dai, 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 dum, da, dee, dai, dai, ai, dai, dai, dee, dai, dai, ai, dai, 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 alai, dai, dee, dai, dai, ai, dai, 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 ai, dai, 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 clap. Hi, rai, rai, ri, rai, rai, rai. Lecha dodi likrat kala, pnei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala, pnei Shabbat nekabela. Shamor v'zochor
בדיבור אחד,
ישמיענו
אל המיוחד,
אדוני אחד
ושמו אחד,
ושמו תפארת
ולצילה.
היי ריי 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 היי ריי 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 לך דודי לקראת קלה פני שבת נקבלה לך דודי לקראת קלה פני שבת נקבלה לקראת שבת
לכו ונלכה
כי הוא מקור
בקור ברכה
מראש מקדם
ניסוכה
סוף מעשה
במחשבה תחילה.
לי 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 היי 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 לך דודי לקראת קלה פני שבת נקבלה לך דודי לקראת קלה פני שבת נקבלה מקדש מלך
עם מלוכה
קומי צאי
מתוך ההפכה
רב לשבת
מעמק הבכה
והוא יקמול
עלייכם לי 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 לי
היי לי לי לך דודי לקראת קלה פני שבת נקבלה לך דודי לקראת קלה פני שבת נקבלה יתנערי
מהפקומי
לבשי בגדי
תפתח עמי
על יד בן ישי
בית הלחמי
קרבו אל נפשי נפשי
גאלה
גאלה לי 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 היי לי 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 לך דודי
לקראת קלה פני שבת נקבלה לך דודי לקראת קלה פני שבת נקבלה
התעוררי
התעוררי
כי בא
אורך קומי אורי
אורי אורי
שדברי
כבוד אדוני
עלייך נגילה
לי 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 היי לי 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 לך דודי לקראת קלה פני שבת נקבלה לך דודי לקראת קלה פני שבת נקבלה לא תבושי
ולא תקלמי
מה תשתוכחי
ומה תהמי
בך יכסו
אני אעמי
ונבנתה עיר
עיר לתהילה
לי 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 היי לי 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 לך דודי לקראת קלה פני שבת נקבלה לך דודי לקראת קלה פני שבת נקבלה והיו למשיסו
סוסייך
ורחקו
כל מבלייך
יסיס עלייך
אלוהייך
כמסוס חתן
חתן הכלה
לי 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 היי לי 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 לך דודי שבת נקבלה, לך דודי לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה, אבינו שמאל,
תפרוצי,
ואת אדוני
תריצי,
על יד איש,
פן פרצי,
ונשמחה
ונגילה,
לך דודי לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה, לך דודי לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה.
Oh, you're all coming. Wow, amazing.
What do they sing? לך דודי לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה, לך דודי לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה. Don't be afraid. It's freezing out. It's freezing out. לך דודי לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה, לך דודי לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה. בואי שלום
התבל
בשמחה
ובצהלה,
תוך אמוני בואי חלה, בואי לך דודי לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה, לך דודי לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה.
Thank you so much.
Take a deep breath, folks. Settle down again. We're now on Psalm 92. This is the official beginning of Shabbat, by the way. In our Kabbalat Shabbat service, if you look at the chart now on the next page, page 16, by the way, Psalm 92 always has a sister psalm with it, 93. And we're now in Malchut, Shekhinah, nobility, presence. And of course, this is a dynamic system. Even though it's written on a page and it looks like it's up and down, there is no up and down. You know, we're a planet. I hate to break it to many of you. We're hurtling in space, and there's no up and there's no down. We've created a convention, a human convention, that up is good and down is bad, right? Heaven above and hell below. So there is no up and down. But what this is dynamic. So when the energy comes into Shekhinah, into that place within us on Shabbat particularly, right? What do? Bring it back up to the top. So in a sense, the best way to see this, and I couldn't do it on the page really, is to see a video of a big spiral. One level going down, 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 coming back up again, down, down, down. And it's like life. You come up and then again you go down, and you go up and you go down. That's the, if you will, the oscillation of being alive, of being alive. Some people see it as a roller coaster. It's also possible. I hope it's not for you, not a roller coaster. Mizmor Shir Yom HaShabbat. Mizmor Shir Yom HaShabbat. Tov lehodot laya ulezamer leshimcha elyon lehagid b'haboker chastecha ואמונתך בלילות עלי אסון ועלי נבל עלי היגיון בחידון כי שימחתני יא בפעלך במעשה ידיך ארנה מה גדלו מעשה חייו מאוד עמקו מחשבותיך איש בה לא ידע וכסיל לא יבין את זאת Tama yifrach ke'eretz v'Lebanon yizkeh shetulim bevet Adonai bechatzrot Eloheinu Shainim ve'rananim yehu lehagi ki yashar yasuri ve'lo harlatabo. The middle of page 16. Amikol lo demayim rabim adirim mishbereyam adirim mishbereyam adibamarom Adonai adibamarom Adonai edotecha neyemnu beyod levecha kodesh Adonai liorech yamim Adonai liorech yamim. Those among us, those at home who are commemorating a yahrzeit or are in mourning, the mourner's Kaddish is on page 17. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah.
Amen.
Bi'alma divra chirutei v'yamlich malchutei v'chayechon u'v'yomechon ובחיי לכל בית ישראל, בעגלה ובזמן קריב ויאמרו,
אמן.
יהי שמי רבא מברך לעולם עולמי עלמיה, יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא, ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי דקודשה,
בריחו.
לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה, תושבחתה ונחמתה דמירן בעלמה ויאמרו,
אמן.
יהי שלמה רבא מן שמיה, וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל ויאמרו
אמן.
עושה שלום במרומיו הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ועל כל יושבי תבל ויאמרו אמן. May be seated. My friends, who are this week's Parsha, we're in the third creation story. The first creation story in Bereshit, if you recall, of course, is that poetic first version of creation, right? The beautiful unfolding of the days of the week and what was created on each one. Then the second story, of course, of the garden and of Adam being created of the dust of the earth. And then the second, by the way, always it's very dramatic. We see the creation of the world, and it said it's Tov Ma'od, it's very good. And 5 chapters later, it's all corrupted, and the world is to be destroyed. So we get a second creation, and that is Noah, who comes back into the world, and he establishes a covenant with God. And when you understand the covenant, the very famous covenant of the rainbow, And when you have a covenant, it means you're taking on more responsibilities. And one of the reasons given why the world came to be corrupted is there wasn't a good enough instruction book that went along with it. People really didn't know what to do or behave. There were no mitzvot. There were no commandments. There was no structure. And eventually everything collapses within and then has to be wiped away. Of course, I don't know if there was a flood or there was Noah. It doesn't matter. It's basically a destruction of a certain consciousness and an opening up to a new consciousness. That's really what the flood story is really about. And explaining also how we came to be, the Tower of Babel, how languages came to be, how, if you will, this is our genealogical mythology, which explains where we are. And here we get a third creation story in this parsha called Lech Lecha, which is an interesting term in itself. Go to you. Totally superfluous, the second word. Right? Lech would have been enough. And that's a third creation story because it creates now a family. And that's the family that we are part of. This is our Bubby and Zadie of old. Avram and Sarah. And they're part of the family album, and you'll notice that with all their flaws. And I tell you, it's one of the great inspirations for me is to realize how many people in our tradition are not presented as flawless or as saints. They're complicated, they're complex, they have many different sides, there are many different ways of understanding themselves and the world. But what we get is the beginning of what we call a journey. The journey began at the end of the last parsha. It says that Abraham's father had left Ur of the Chaldees, had moved to Haran, but he stayed in the Haran. Business was good, you know how it is. He didn't want to move on because he was on the way to go to Canaan. But it is only with the calling that Avram and Sarai get that they should go to a land which is something that they do not know anything about. That's really a very important part of the journey, is that we take a journey always into the unknown. That's what it means, pressing ahead. If we knew what was coming, wow, it would be great. We don't know anything. So we take a leap of faith, and we go into the unknown, and we trust that we will find our way. And another thing that this journey talks about is the fact that ultimately there's a promise to be fulfilled. There's an incentive for the journey. For Avram and Sarai, the incentive is that perhaps returning or going to this land will end their childlessness. And that's what Avram is always asking. Who's going to carry on my concept of the world having one God or one power, and that it's not a place for worshiping the fragments, but we should learn to see the whole and appreciate the whole and not worship the fragments. The trees are beautiful, the stars are grand, the seas are beautiful, but if you start worshiping each one of those and forget that there's something far larger and far encompassing, then you are, in our tradition, an idolater. Some people worship money, some people worship their Lamborghinis, whatever it is, right? But anytime you worship anything that's a fragment, you really lose the big picture. So the incentive is not only that he will have progeny that will be like the stars of the sky and the sand of the shore, but that, and this is so important, that all the nations of the world will be blessed by his progeny. All the nations of the world should be blessed by his progeny. And this became, if you will, the mission, if there is a mission of what it is to be a Jew, was to be part of that bringing on the entire world to a message of oneness, of unity, of interconnectedness. And, the promise to Avram sort of came true because there are now billions of people in the world, Christians and Muslims, a couple of Jews in there, but we don't have billions, but a couple of Jews in there, who all claim to be descendants of Avram and Sarai, all of them. So in a sense, the promise has been fulfilled. But as I mentioned in my meditation class this morning, one of the problems we've had in that is that every one of these traditions that came out of the Abrahamic tradition, out of Judaism, became supersessionist. You know what that word means? Supersessionist. They came to have the true version of it, and they basically have to dismiss the one that came before it. So monotheism is really not always very helpful because it has created a certain competition. Islam will come along and say, you know what? The Jews and the Christians, fine people, people of the book, but you know, they falsified everything. We'll give you the truth now. All of them claiming to be monotheists. As I said this morning in class, you know what? All of them hide or keep hidden a deep truth within each of these traditions, which is a truth about monism. That everything is indeed connected. And there is no before or after. There is no, it was no longer, if you will, applicable to life, and this is now more applicable. It's monism, all is connected. And they've been basically, if you will, tamped down in every tradition. In our tradition, there was the mystics, who had a very elite kind of esoteric teaching that was not meant for everyone. In Islam, it was the Hermetics and some of the early church fathers, etc. And in Islam, the Sufis, etc., those who basically didn't want to work with turf. They wanted to work with the capacity of how do people who believe in the one become one. And this is the tragedy if we look out at the world. All these people who claim Adonai Echad Ushmo Echad, God is one and his name is one, do not act as if that is the case. People still, if you noticed, you notice every day, people still do not understand that I have a deep connection with you, sitting opposite me, standing opposite me. Why do I kill you? We have to face that reality, folks. So I was giving you some thought, and I was saying, you know, the world, according to the world of civilization as we know it, when people started to talk and tell stories, it's only about 5,000 or 6,000 years. Maybe we've been here for millions or billions before, but only when we started telling our stories. So maybe 6,000 years is not enough to overcome that great battle between nurture and nature, which ultimately has to be overcome to people not to destroy each other. It might take 6,000 more years. It may take 60,000 more years. It may take 100,000 more years. But the bottom line is there are people of good faith in all of these traditions. And in the ones that are atheistic as well, is Buddhism, Hinduism is not atheistic. It has also a sense of a one God. But they all have to get to a place where we keep the small little groups of people. That's who they are, small groups of people. But we keep the flame going. We keep the ideal going. We keep say, you know, we haven't gotten there yet. But you know what? Let's continue on. Let's not lose hope. Let's have endurance. Let's have endurance. And I'm heartened by the fact that we have groups of people in every tradition. This coming week, there's something going on. You all can sign up for it. It's called the Parliament of World's Religions. I went to the one in 2018. It was in Toronto. They have them all over the world. This year, it's all online. And you go to this conference, and you see people in every garb, every religious tradition, you know, from Jains with their brushes, and Sikhs and Hindus and everybody. And you feel so good there. Why? Because the thousands of people who gather, the 7,000 or 8,000 people who gather from all over the world, are basically all on the same page. It's so heartening. That's a small number. You get more. There are more Bob Marley subscribers on YouTube than all of these people together, right? He has 54 million, right? If you think about it. So you basically have to be grateful. Really gratitude for those people who persevere, those people who create students and create students of students who continue the message that, you know, we don't have to hate each other. You know, we really can build a world based on seeing life as a value and life not being cheap. So this is what Avram tried to give us. Avram tried to give us the sense of the fact that it's all really a entire whole and we're all connected to it. And that's the spiritual journey he began, and that we still walk in that path. And over the years, you'll get discouraged. You'll meet disappointments. Avram will meet a disappointment right after he hears this. There's a famine in the land and he's got to go down to Egypt. There's always going to be obstacles. But those obstacles are there perhaps as a gift as well. As a gift as well. And that gift is that basically it lets us know that in that dilemma we are in that itself, there may be some small pearl that's been created by all of that friction and irritation, and that small pearl of enlightenment, something that wakes you up, can be found even in distressing times. It's not easy. You got to put away a lot of stuff to find it. But that's what we as Jews, I believe, have continued for all these millennia. The idea that there is something to walk towards. There is something to try to reach and not to be satisfied by standing still. And that's really, it's really wonderful that there are people like that. There were people like that. I want to say that everybody here is a person like that. I think TBZ, we're all like that. Jews who support shuls, who support schools, who support progress in the world. And so many Jews are involved in progressive things in this world. That's really a testament to our faith, to our hope, and hopefully, b'meheira b'yameinu, speedily in our days, we will see the true light that shines. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom. Shkoach.
Page 18, our kavanah for Kabbalat Shabbat. It appears in the Zohar, the Book of Splendor, the mystical commentary on Torah. And it's where we basically learn there are two things that you have to let go of in order to be able to really have Shabbat. And one is anger, and one is judgmentalism. And if you do so, you create spaciousness within yourself so we can get an additional soul on Shabbat. Nishama Yitera. A vision of Shabbat, an insight into the profound meaning of being at one. Through the service of Kabbalat Shabbat, the throne of glory is prepared for the Holy One. With the arrival of Shabbat, the Shekhinah is liberated from all forces of evil and harsh judgments, leaving her free for intimate union with the holy light, adorned with many crowns by the Holy One. All kingdoms of anger, all dominions of judgment, flee from her presence. No alien power reigns in all the universe. No alien power reigns in all the worlds. She is bathed in light from on high, while receiving a crown of Shabbat prayers from earth. From us, the holy people, all of us are adorned with fresh additional souls, which are ours on Shabbat. Then we begin Shabbat prayers, happily blessing her, joy and gladness on our faces, released from thoughts of severity and judgment, uttering Baruch Hu, praise Yah, as Shabbat blessings and peace begin to flow. If you're able to rise, we rise, and I invite you to our evening worship. Page 19. Barechu et Adonai HaMevorach.
Baruch Adonai Baruch Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Le'olam Va'ed. You may be seated. The Shema is now preceded by two blessings, a blessing of light and a blessing of love. Page 19. If you wish, recite with me. It's so beautiful. It's really worth learning Hebrew just to read this. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bidbaro ma'ariv aravim, b'chokhmah poteach sha'arim, ובתבונה משנה עיתים ומחליף את הזמנים, ומסדר את הכוכבים במשמרותיהם ברקיע כרצונו. בורא יום ולילה, גולל אור מפני חושך וחושך מפני אור. ומעביר יום ומביא לילה, ומבדיל בין יום ובין לילה, Adonai Tzevaot Shemo, El Chai V'Kayam Tamid Yimloch Aleinu L'Olam Va'ed. Baruch Atah Hayah Hamari V'Aravi.
Amen.
The gift of love, page 20. Ahavat Olam.
Ahavat Olam Beit Yisrael Amchavta Torah u'mitzvot chukim u'mishpatim otanu limadeta al kein Adonai Eloheinu b'shofteinu uv'kumeinu nasiach bechukecha v'nismach b'divrei Toratecha ובמצוותיך לעולם ועד כי הם חיינו ואורך ימינו ואורך ימינו ובהם נגי יומם ולילה יומם ולילה ואהבתך תעשה ממנו לעולמים ברוך אתה אדוני אוהב עמו ישראל.
Amen. The Shema is found on page 21. We take a full breath for each words of the Shema. Shema. Listen, you who wrestle with God, the unfolding of being, who gods you, that which can never be pronounced or captured in any word or thought, is one. Shem kevod machoto li'olam va'ed.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך וקשרתם לאות על ידיך והיו תותפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובישעריך.
Let's turn to the middle of page 24. Interpretation of the second paragraph of the Shema. I love to reread this. I only do services now once a month, so it's really a treat for me to read it together with you. So please join me as we read the middle paragraph on page 24. If I carefully follow the way I have been shown, the way of justice, mercy, and humility, serving life with the fullness of my life, then the earth will flourish with righteousness and riches. Pure rain will fall in its season. The earth will bring forth her bounty. My labors will flourish, and the fragrance of life will scent the air like fine oil. There will be food enough for all, and all be able to partake of it. No one will exploit another, for no other shall be separate from the one. But beware, if I follow another path, pursuing gods of narrow desire, who separate one from another in quest of power and control, Then the heavens will rain poison. Creation will fall ill. And I and all will soon disappear from this good earth. Therefore I impress these words upon my heart to quell anger. I bind them in my hands to stop violence. I set them before my eyes to see the one who is all. By word and by deed I teach them. I repeat them at home and away, morning and night. I write them upon the doorpost of my home and upon my gate, that my dwelling be a haven from ignorance and delusion. Then my days and the days of my people will endure forever, one generation passing righteousness and kindness to the next, all the days of the earth. Adonai Elohechem Emet. The third paragraph surrounding the Shema, the blessing of redemption, the middle of page 25.
ומלכותו ברצון קיבלו עליהם משה ומרים ובני ישראל לחנו ישר בשמחה רבה ואמרו כולם מי כמוך באלים אדוני מי כמוך נדר בקודש נורא תהילות Osefele Malchutech Uvenecha Bokei Hayam Lifnei Moshe Ze Eli Anu Ve'amru Adonai Yimloch Leolam Va'ed Ve'ne'ema Kivada Anayat Yaakov Ugalo Miyad Chazak Meimenu. Praise are you, God, Redeemer of Israel. Baruch atah Adonai, God Yisrael.
Amen. Let's read together the bottom of page 26. Cause us, eternal our God, to lie down for well-being, and help us arise, our ruler to life. Spread over us the shelter of your well-being, and fix in us good counsel in your presence. Save us for the sake of your name and shield us. Keep far from us enmity, illness, strife, hunger, and fear. Keep oppressors from confronting or pursuing us. Let us be covered by the shadow of your wings. For you are our protector and helper. Mercy and compassion is your rule. Guard our going out and our coming in for life and for well-being from this time forth and forever. And spread over us the shelter of your well-being. Praised are you, Adonai, who spreads over us the shelter of your well-being, and over the people Israel, over Jerusalem, and over the entire world. Ufros aleinu sukat shelomecha, baruch atah Adonai, haporei sukat shalom aleinu, ve'al kol amo Yisrael, al Yerushalayim, ve'al kol ha'olam.
Amen.
We rise for the declaration of Shabbat on page 27.
V'shameru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat לדורותם ברית עולם
Kaddish on page 28, and then Rav Danny will give us a little kavanah for the Amidah, which follows.
ידע ויקדש שמי רבה, בעמד יברח יוצא וימיך מלכותי, בחייכון וביומכון, ובחיי דכל בית ישראל, בגלה בגלה, ובזמן קריב ימרו.
אמן.
יש מרבה מבורך, לעולם עולמי המאיה, ויסתבח, ויתבר, ויתמר, ויתנשא, ויתהדר, ויתהלל, ויתהלל, שמי דקדושה, ברכו לילה מכל ברכתה ושורתה, תושבחתה ונחמתה, דמירם בעלמא וימרו.
Amen.
In just a moment, we'll have some time for our own personal Amidah, which the traditional words go from page 29 to 39 in our Siddur, or for the words you're feeling in your heart right now. And I want to focus during my personal Amidah time to share with you all on Chesed, which Moshe brought in tonight as we were going through the Sefirot, going through the system in which we recognize God in Kabbalat Shabbat. And on page 29, towards the middle of the page, we read, V'zocher chastei avot v'imahot. And you are the one who remembers the chesed, the compassion, the love that was given to our ancestors. The phrase, does God love me, or we see God's love, isn't used so often in the Jewish world as it is the Christian world. And it's a phrase that we have in our tradition, that God loves us. God loves our ancestors, God loves us, and God will love those to come. And not just us, but all of humanity, all of living creatures. And so I want to empower us as we're thinking about this Amidah and preparing to go into it. So we take 3 steps back, 3 steps forward. Think about what are the ways in which I notice God's love, this supernal love that we sing about in Ahavat Olam, in everlasting love. What are the ways in which this love appears in my life? And what are the ways in which I can open up my eyes to recognize that love, that chesed? Perhaps it's in others, perhaps in music and prayer and nature. For all of us, it's different, but we know we have that chesed, and we have an incredible opportunity to connect to it tonight and every single day as well. With that, I invite you to take some time for your own personal Amidah, page 29.
אדוני שפתי תפתח ופי יצירתך. ברוך.
זכר חסדי אבות ואימהות. אלוהים סבינו מגבולך וסבשי בשבילך ותעל ליבנו עבדך באמת תדכים נשאים ביעבר סור שבת קודשך ויברכו בעם ישראל בתחי שמך ברוך לך ומלך קדיש בצי אדוני חזה מסביר בשמכם האחדים מודים אנחנו
Chesed yibane,
Olam will build this world from love. And ye will build this world from love. And God will build this world from love.
We'll be asking those who'd like to put names up in the chat, if you're online or here, to give us a name. Just stand where you are, tell the name for some person who you are hoping that they will be healed soon of whatever illness, whatever they are striving to be healed from. So if you wouldn't, we'll get the names from Lee in a while. Any names here, just stand and give a name. I'll do Gershon Ben Ella, I'll do Alan Weisner. Any other names?
Yonatan Ben Hudel, Sheila Wander.
Who do we have?
We have Destiny, Luann, Thomas, and Casey, Nellie, Joan, Linda, Seth, Ella Ben Shofsi, Lori, Ruthie, and Shelley, Joe, John, and Ed, and Bob.
Mishaberech Avotenu, may the one who has blessed our ancestor bless all those who are in need of healing, a refuah shlema, a refuah of nefesh, a refuah of their souls and spirits, refuah taguf, and of their bodies. And may all of us be supportive of those who need help, those who help those who are ill, those who will be the caretakers, and those who will be the doctors, physicians, who will hopefully be supportive of all of us in striving to bring people to a full recovery. Elena refana la, Elena refana la, Elena refana la, refuah shelema. We rise for the Aleinu, if you're able to rise, on page 44. Page 44.
Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, l'tekiru l'yotze b'reishit, shelo asanu gei haratzot, velo samanu b'shmechuchot ha'adama, shelo sam chelkeinu kaim, v'gor aleinu kol ha'olam, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. Before you, eternal our God, they will bow and fall down to the honor of your name. They will give loyalty. They will receive each of them the yoke of your sovereignty. You will speedily reign over them forever and ever. For the sovereignty is yours. You will reign eternally in honor. As it is written in your Torah, the Eternal will reign forever and ever. And as it said, the Eternal will be ruler of all the earth. On that day, the Eternal will be one, and God's name will be one. V'nemar v'haya Adonai lemelech al kol haaretz bayom hahu yeh Adonai echad. Ushemo, Ushemo, Ushemo Echad. May be seated. This coming week we will commemorate the names of Jonathan Abrams, Ann Borenstein, Betty Buchler,
Annie Busis, Ida Darish, Gerald Eilberg, Louise Weiss Fox, Joseph Garlick, Shirley Jacobson, Ruth Katz, Boris Krugliak, Eve Naiman, Isidore Norwich, Olga Polikov, Lita Ribner, Jeanette Sargon, Susan Schacht, Beatrice Polikov Schulman, Lena Spiegel, Nathan Spivak, Sam Tanzer, Helen Taritz, Joe Willian, Beverly Fuchs, of blessed memory. I'd like to just highlight Joe Willian, okay, just for a moment. There are many of you who don't know who he was, but he was one of the people who really helped create the TBZ that we know on the foundation of Temple Bet Zion. He was our very important link to the world that is gone. He was from Vilna, and he had fought in the war. He had been imprisoned. He had liberated. He went to Cyprus. He told the Jewish story, basically. Wound up in Eretz Yisrael, and then had the fortune of meeting a girl from Boston who was there for her junior year abroad or something back in the 1950s, and she brought him back here. He was a person who would shake your hand. Give me your hand for a second. It was always this, but it was always that. See that? He always wanted to capture the warmth, that you should capture his warmth. And he, along with that generation who I was blessed to know, were able to take the chance of walking into the unknown by bringing me in and creating a new kind of congregation. And they were able to manage to do that in spite of the changes which they found problematic and hard to take. But they were so committed that this place should be a living, breathing place again, that they really gave a lot of trust and a lot of hope to all of us. So, Joe, I miss you very, very, very much. And I know that you would be proud of us and what we have accomplished over the last 21 years. So if you're in mourning or have a yahrzeit, please rise for the mourner's Kaddish. It's found on page 48.
Lev, is there anybody in the chat as
Anybody
well?
in the chat? I'll give you a little time.
Of course.
If anybody would like to add a name of a yahrzeit into the chat, please do, and we'll have it read to us.
Luisa de Gonzalez.
Is that it?
Frederick Parker. That was just added. I believe that's it, yeah.
Page 48. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah.
Amen.
V'yalma divra chirutei v'yamlich malchutei. V'chayechon v'yomechon v'chayei d'chol bet Yisrael. V'agala v'zman kari v'yimru.
Amen.
Yehei shmei Rabbah mevorach le'olam ulmei ulmaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpoar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei d'kutsha v'chu. Le'ilah min kol birchata v'shirata. Tushbechata v'nechemata d'amiran b'alma v'yimru.
Amen.
Yehei shlomo Rabbah min shemaya. V'chaim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yimru.
Amen.
עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום. עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ועל כל יושבי תבל, ויאמרו Amen.
Amen.
I'm not sure who's giving the announcements, but if you are giving the announcements, is there a way of us hearing that person as well?
There was nobody assigned this morning, unless somebody signed up last minute. I'm happy to give some announcements.
If not, we'll have our announcements done right here.
There you go.
Okay.
Shabbos, it's so good to be with everybody. We have services tomorrow morning, as it goes, at 10 a.m., Torah study first at 9 a.m. with Reb Moshe. After services with Rabbi Natan Margali, we have a beautiful shiur downstairs, a beautiful lesson for Kiddush. No actual Kiddush, but in remembrance of Kiddush. Hopefully in time we will have Kiddush. And he's talking about Shemitah and climate change, our 7th year where we let the land rest and climate change. It's going to be phenomenal. See what else we have. Wonder Minion tomorrow for young families and little ones is tomorrow at 11:30 a.m. All other announcements you can find in your TBZ happenings We have Eat, Pray, and Love. Not Eat, Pray, Love. That's the movie or the book. Eat, Pray, Learn. Wednesday mornings. We just started up again this past week at 7:30 in person. Join Rav Claudia, members of our community, to eat, schmooze, do some learning. All this and more can be found in the happenings as well. And finally, a big thank you to Jack Daniels and Susan Diller for having a railing installed over there where a sukkah is to make it a little bit more accessible for people who need help getting up to the sukkah. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. Thank you so much. And remember, you could find on our website, TBZ Brookline,
Website as well, yes.
a lot of information, tbzbrookline.org. So, Reb Danny's going to lead us in Kiddush. If you're able to rise, if you want to follow the Kiddush, it's found on page 50. Page 50.
And as we prepare for Kiddush, if you are somebody on Zoom who has challah, send Lev a message and we'll spotlight you for challah after Kiddush. יום השישי וכו השמיים והארץ וכל צבאם וחולים ביום השביעי מלאכתו אשר עשה וישבע ביום השביעי מכל מלאכתו אשר עשה ויברך אלוהים את יום השביעי ויקדש אותו כי בו שווה מכל מלאכתו אשר ברא אלוהים לעשות סברי. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם בורא פרי הגפן. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם אשר קידשנו במצוותיו ורצבנו ושבע קודשו באהבה וברצון הנחילנו זיכרון למעשה בראשית כי הוא יום תחילה למקראי קודש זכר ליציאת מצרים כי בנו בחרת ואותנו קידשת עם כל עמים ושבע קודשך באהבה וברצון הנחלתנו ברוך אתה אדוני מקדש השבת.
Amen. You may be seated. Is there anyone who has chalot there? Yes,
We have Rachel Goodman here.
Oh, Rachel, beautiful. I don't know if we can hear
It's
you.
a small challah. I don't know.
If we put maybe the microphone to the computer.
I have to ask her to unmute. Hold on a second.
The suspense.
Sorry about that. Hold on.
Okay.
Okay, I'm trying to unmute.
I think I'm
No
unmuted.
worries.
Okay. Is she
We'll
unmuted?
all do it together.
Okay, I don't think it's going to work because...
No worries. But Rachel,
sound,
you
but-
will follow your lips. You start it.
Baruch
atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz.
Amen.
Amen. We will
Thank you.
join in your bite.
Pass it
Thank you
right.
so much. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
So again, I want to thank everybody who's here in person. It was really wonderful for us to have actual human beings that instead of just an empty room. So hopefully as the months go by, hopefully we will be able to return to even a more normal kind of way of being. I'm hoping that's going to happen by the springtime. So wish you all a Shabbat Shalom, a good Shabbos, and we're going to end with beautiful Nigun. Reb Danny will, and hopefully you'll join in the Nigun, and then there's some Kiddush outside, but stay outside when you schmooze, okay? Thank you. And ask people if you mind taking your mask off or not taking your mask off. People have different sensitivities to that. Okay, let's go.
Say shalom b'mromam, say shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol yoshvei tevel ve'imru amen. Say shalom b'mromam, say shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael
Shabbos, everybody.
Good Shabbos, everybody, on Zoom, in person. Shabbat Shalom. May it be a beautiful, beautiful day. Bruchti.
Zu sein dort.
Ja, warte. Besser als euch, besser als euch.